Hello everyone, welcome back to my tutorial video. In today's video, I'd like to show you guys how I draw hair realistically. This tutorial is intended for beginners. I'm going to explain the drawing process step by step. And this year is a very special year for me because I've finally been able to earn some money from YouTube. So as my token of gratitude, there's actually a free worksheet for you to download. The link is on the description box. But right now, there's only one exercise, so let's build this project together. So please support and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more of it. Right, so as usual, we're going to do some sketching first. And as I draw, I'll put the reference picture here so you guys can compare and understand my thinking process better. I know the reference photo isn't the best quality, but I want you guys to know that this is more than enough for me. And actually, this will help us because sometimes when we use a high resolution photo, it could distract us as we see too many details and we feel like we need to draw every single details. But today, we are going to use this photo instead and not worry about the details. So how do you sketch the hair? Because this will be the fundamental of your drawing. When sketching the hair, you need to ignore the detail and just sketch the big shapes. Don't try to draw every individual hair strand. Because 1, that's almost impossible, and 2, that's not the smart way. We need to be effective here. So instead, try to look at the clumps of hair. These clumps of hair are what make your drawing look realistic. So if you try to draw every single hair strand at this stage, the hair won't look good, and I think the right term here is organized. When you go to a hairstylist and you ask him or her to style your hair, how often do you see them working hair by hair? That'd be silly, right? We're like a hairstylist here. So we want to grab a bunch of hair, group them together and style them in groups. Also, if it's possible, try not to sketch too many hair clumps. You only need to sketch the bigger groups and no need to do the smaller ones. If you start sketching the smaller groups here, it will only confuse you because it's too many. Remember, so less is more here, guys. Right, so this is the sketch. Now I want to darken the paper a little bit, because right now the paper is too white. I'd like to add some graphite, so that I can start sketching the highlight. So I'll grab my knife and just sprinkle some graphite like this. Just a little bit is enough, and by the way, this is my 8B pencil. Okay, so now, I don't like using my finger, because the finger contains oil and that can leave a mark on the paper. So I'll just use a tissue like this. This will create a very low faint shading so that I can start using my eraser to mark my highlight. I will also switch to a side view angle when I want you guys to see my hand movement more clearly. I think having multiple angles when doing a tutorial is better. Sometimes you can't see my hand clearly from the top view. But from this angle, you definitely can see my hand better. At this point, everything is still a sketch. I don't use my tumble eraser to create individual hair strands. I just locate the position of the highlight from the reference photograph and mark it on the paper. If you don't have this eraser, it's totally okay. Just use a regular rubber eraser. They're basically the same thing. One thing to remember here is to erase the graphite following the hair flow you have sketched earlier and not against it. For example, this clump of hair is diagonal, so you move your hand diagonally, while the top portion of the hair is mostly vertical. Now you will have the basic sketch of the hair, and the map of the values, the shadow and the light. This will help us tremendously in terms of where things are. Without this sketch, it feels like we're drawing bluntly. The sketch acts as a blueprint for us, so make sure to get this stage done correctly before moving on to the next stage. The next thing we're going to do is indentation. When drawing the hair, the easier thing is to separate the shading and the texture. So before we make the hair darker, we want to do the texture first. At this point, forget about the shading and just focus on doing the texture. For the indentation to be successful, you need to draw on a thick drawing paper. I'm using Canson 1557 180 GSM, and for the tool, I just use my 4H pencil. I use this pencil because this pencil is hard, so I could just sharpen it like a needle if I want to. And here's the side view angle again so that you can see my hand more clearly. When doing the indentation, you want to target the white hair strands. Right now, our pencil line is dark, but when I do the shading later on, these pencil marks will look white. Right now, it doesn't make any sense, but you will see the magic yourself. Also, one tip I'd like to give you here is, don't indent everything. Leave some areas empty, especially near the darkest shadow. Just a few indentations here and there is enough, and with practice, you will feel how much is too much. And here is the top view of the indentation process again. Try to pay attention to how I leave some areas empty. Now the texture has been taken care of. The next thing we want to do is to start darkening it. We no longer need to worry about the texture anymore because we already did the indentation. I'm using my sharp 8B Staedtler pencil here, and although I no longer do the texturing, I still need to sharpen my pencil. The sharper the pencil, the better. Also, it's the same thing as before. So always try to shade and follow the flow of the hair and not against it. We want the hair to look neat, fresh from the beauty salon. And trust me, your girlfriend will thank you later. The next tip I want to give you is to darken slowly. You start by darkening the darkest area of the drawing. But don't make it 100% dark. You go 50%. Then if you want more, you go 75%. You add the darkness bit by bit. This is because it's so much easier to darken things when drawing, but not the other way around. Be very careful because once you put the darkest value, it'd be very hard to erase. Just go slowly and gradually to avoid any mistakes. I like to think my process as passes. The first pass, I darken the darkest area of the drawing using my 8B. I try not to touch the highlight because I want it to be as clean as possible, at least for now. And as you can see, I don't really care about drawing the details or the texture because I've already done it. Also, I always try to work with a sharp pencil. The sharp pencil is not for creating texture. I need it to create a clean edge between each hair clump. It would be very hard to create this clean edge using a blunt pencil. And if you don't draw these edges cleanly, the drawing will look blurry and not as sharp. So take care of your pencil sharpness. Also, in this first pass, I like to start drawing the bigger flyaway hair. If you look at the bottom part of my reference photo, there are some thicker flyaway hair strands, not those individual hair strands. Those will be done at the finishing stage with mechanical pencil, but the thicker one, so this will be easier if I use a sharp pencil. So don't be lazy to sharpen your pencil for a clearer drawing. The second pass, I darken the shadow even further. So if previously I did 50%, now I do 75%. I'm still using the same 8B pencil here. And as you can see, the magic starts happening. You can see that the darker I shade with my pencil, the more the indentations are showing through. This is because when we do indentation, we are creating some kind of trenches on the paper. And when we're doing the shading, the pencil simply skips these trenches, so it remains light. It's as easy and simple as that. In this second pass, I also begin to use my small brush to enhance the shadow. The brush simply distributes the graphite more evenly and really fills in the paper grain much better than my pencil. The brush also softens the edges between the hair clumps, so sometimes we don't want the edges looking too crisp, so this is one way to soften it. You can also use paper stump or other blending tools, but I like to use my small brush here because I like it more than my paper stump. And here is another angle. You can see that the shadow becomes darker, and the good thing is that it doesn't undo the indentation. I think it darkens it a little bit, but in a good way. Sometimes we don't want the indentation being too strong either. So I'll leave you guys with my time-lapse for a moment, because honestly, these things takes a really long time to finish. I really need to brush it over and over until I get my desired result. And sometimes it's hard to see in real time. The only thing I do here is I keep building up my shadow. And if I feel like I don't have enough graphite on the paper, I'll add some shading with my pencil and continue with the brushing technique. Now the hair looks dark. If this is good enough for you, congratulations. You can stop here, but I still can push this even further. With a sharp pencil, I can begin texturing the dark areas. I slowly add some dark lines here and there, especially near the dark areas, because I don't want it to be some kind of dark empty shadow. I want it to have something. And I do this by drawing some lines really carefully. I don't randomly and mindlessly draw the lines, I selectively add the lines to where I think is too empty. Also, it's a great opportunity to really check your edges. Perhaps you want some edges to look stronger, so you clean it up. Or you can soften it with a brush if you think it looks too sharp. But rule of thumb here would be, there is no mistake in drawing, guys. Don't be afraid to make mistakes when drawing. If something doesn't look right, just observe the photo reference again. And just find the difference between your drawing and the reference. Is your drawing too dark or too bright, or the shape doesn't look right? It's just a game of finding the differences from here. And to be honest, it took me like 2 days to draw this hair tutorial. Roughly 8 to 10 hours. So yeah, it takes a lot of patience, and just to be fair, no one can draw for 8 hours straight. I can only draw for 2 hours tops. So don't be shy to take a break every now and then to refresh your vision. Just leave the drawing and have a fresh start tomorrow. The next important step for me is to enhance the highlight to make it pop. I'm using my tumble eraser here, but again, if you don't own one, you can definitely use a regular rubber eraser. So the trick here is not to enhance every single highlight, because if everything is too bright, then the drawing won't look as interesting. The key is to enhance the highlight you like the most. And for me, it's these areas here. I'm not sure why, but I really like these areas. So I'm gonna enhance it to make it pop more. The rest of the drawing, I'll still try to improve it. We don't want to have some areas underdeveloped. But in order to make the drawing pop, we need to boost its contrast, especially near the focal point. That's why never copy the photograph as it is, because the photo doesn't know where the special area is. And that's our job as an artist, to selectively make it happen. And it's important to remind you that I don't try to draw one single hairstrand here. Although my razor is tiny, I'm trying to light a bunch of hairs here. Don't worry about the single hairstrand anymore, because we have taken care of it with the indentation technique. Also, if the eraser leaves some uneven spots, or too bright, you can touch it up with your blending tools like this. And this is the beginning of our finishing touches. So please be cautious. Don't spend too much time here. Don't overwork the drawing. And if you feel like you're no longer improving the drawing, just stop. That means your drawing is finished. The very last step is to draw the individual flying hairs around your subject. There are 2 ways I like to show you here. So if I want to create a softer hair look, I like to do this kind of back and forth motion with my pencil. I draw very softly and barely touch the paper with my pencil. And here's another example of me doing a soft hair strand. And the benefits of doing this is that if you don't like the line, you could just easily erase it. And the second way is, if you feel confident, you press hard with your pencil and try to carefully create a smooth curved line. And of course, you need to be more careful here, because if you make a mistake, you might not be able to erase it. But the result looks different. This is thicker and looks like a small group of hair from a distance. You might like it, hate it, it's all up to you. And finally, here's the final drawing, guys. And because obviously I'm not a professional, I couldn't help myself but draw the shoulder and her back as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the like button. I'll keep making more tutorials like this if people like it. So please support this channel, it means a lot to me. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.